How on earth does an Aussie marketing guy like yourself make a deal happen with Jerry Seinfeld?
JD, I just want to say that you are the most professional, most competent marketing person I've ever worked with.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
I'd like to say.
John Dwyer, the old school method of marketing. Thank you for being here.
I believe I was only invited because the real guest you had dropped out at the last moment.
Something like that.
Next. I've never done a TV show before. I was a complete imposter. So when they said, have you got big stars? So I said, we have. And they said, like who? I went, Michael Jordan.
Stop it.
You know what I mean? Like, what? Something multiplied by 10. And I said, how do you know him? I said, oh, it's a long story. But anyway, we'll get Michael Jordan.
You weren't friends with him.
No, I couldn't spell his name. They said, you got 6 episodes.
Footy cards prior to you were pretty boring.
My friends hated me because we all had young kids at the time. And they'd say, you're a bastard. We're spending a fortune on all your shit.
Anybody here from Wagga Wagga?
The biggest comedian in the world for less than what they pay Ricky Ponting.
We're paying about $10.50 and then there's some lunch money.
I said, man, what did you do this? You got more money than God. And he goes,
What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. As you would have seen in the trailer, we are in for an absolute treat with today's guest, John Dwyer, affectionately known as JD in marketing circles around Australia. This is an old school marketing legend who has worked with all the major, properties, I think, entertainment properties and so on in this country through some of its best years. And he goes through some of the most interesting deals from working with Jerry Seinfeld, Michael Jordan, some of the most innovative marketing ideas of his generation and even our generation. We go into how you can give away $1 million even today for $15,000 in your business. So imagine being able to run promotions where you can give away $1 million that only costs you 15 grand. If you stick around to the end, JD goes into exactly how he's done it over and over again, how you can too, and so much more. This is an absolute ripper pod. Enjoy, like, subscribe, drop us a comment. Remember, drop us a comment, like and subscribe. That tells the algorithm this is a great video. It helps us grow the channel. And if you know anybody like JD, a legit old school superstar business person in this country, hit us up because we'd love to do more interviews like this. Get these guys on tape for the younger generations coming up. Enjoy the show. I know you're going to love it. Bye for now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. Guys, we have a real treat for you today. We have one of Aussie's most famous marketers from the old school method of marketing. But you know what, John, I was reading all the stuff your team sent us in advance, and so much of this stuff is so applicable today in terms of creativity and just marketing know-how and genius and practicality. Can't wait to dive into it. Thank you for being here on the pod. How are you feeling?
thank you for inviting me. I believe I was only invited because the real guest you had dropped out at the last moment. Was
Something like that. Yeah, we had, I think, Obama or something to it. And then,
right.
Yeah, he didn't show up. So, it reminds me, actually, I was in Los Angeles recently and I was sitting there having a lunch and I was at an important meeting and Brad Pitt walked past and, you try not to look, but of course it's Brad Pitt. And he went into the bathroom and I was sitting there with my business meeting and I thought to myself, shit, if I could get Brad Pitt to stop by my table on the way back and just say, hey, Adam, how you doing? It would help me close this deal. And I thought, fuck it, I'm here only once. So I got up to the bathroom, wait for him, and I said, look, Brad, a huge fan. I've got this big meeting right now and it would be cool if just to help me out because I'm here from Australia, I'm trying to close the deal. But you could just stop and say, hey, Adam, how you doing? And it would just mean the world. He goes, yeah, Brad Pitt. And the guy said, no problem. So I'm sitting there and Brad comes back from the bathroom and he stops. He says, hey, Adam, how you doing? I said, fuck off, Brad. Can't you see I'm busy? There you go. Well, I thought you'd appreciate that, Jake, John.
Could you have anyone videoing that?
Well, that said, how are you, James?
Mate, I'm good. I've got it, Adam. I've got it. It's not I can top that because I can't top that, but I've got to tell you my Kevin Costner one. In Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, a mate of mine called Mark Smales with me. We're having a coffee and I'm busting to go to the restaurant, but the coffee shop doesn't have a restroom, of course. And I look across the road and there's a big steak restaurant with those 2 big wooden doors that take the rock to open them. I said to my mate, look, I've got to go to the toilet. I'll race across the road and pretend I'm going to book into the restaurant, but I'll just go to the toilet and come back again. I walk across the road. I didn't realise, but Kevin Costner's walking down to go into the restaurant. I want to go in to go to the restroom. I grab the door and I pull it open as fast as I can because I'm busting. I hit this poor bastard in the head and he goes like that. When he brings his arm down, I went, that's Kevin Costner. I said, mate, I'm sorry. And his girlfriend's upset and she's your wife, whatever. And he says, no, it's all right. It's all right. I'm thinking to myself, well, I probably should say to him, well, that was for Waterworld. So I go in, because it gets better, I go in, I say to the guy, could I have a table for one? He goes, yes, sir, and takes me to the table. And then basically I go to the restroom. As I'm coming out, I hear Kevin Costner still rubbing his face, saying to the guy, table for two. And the guy says to, have you booked? He said, no. He said, I'm sorry, that guy took the last table.
Wow. So first you smack him in the head and then you kick him out of the restaurant. Nice work, JD. Love it, love it, love it. How to win friends and influence people, Aussie style.
I told my kids, I've got 6 of them, that there was no Santa Claus when they were 5. That's sort of birthday.
Brutal. James, how are you, mate?
Mate, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this one. We've had a few conversations in the past, John and I, so it's always it's a bit of a Aussie larrikin, and the conversation's usually in a riddle, so it's going to be a hell of an hour and a half.
I can't wait to see you two firing up. Eric, how are you?
I'm a little bit lost. I'm just this Canadian in a Aussie world at the moment. No, so hopefully I'll understand the full podcast.
Well, for you, it's going to be interesting because John's history, some of these ads are quite iconic for Aussies who grew up in Australia. And so, it's,
the Seinfeld one was.
Yeah, the Seinfeld one.
Yeah.
So you're obviously, we call you JD, right? Everyone calls you JD. You're best known for Seinfeld. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, you probably saw in the trailer Jerry Seinfeld doing an ad for the Greater Bank, wasn't it? Greater?
Yep.
Greater Bank, which is a small community bank here in Australia for those of you who are not Australian. And John was the man responsible for getting Jerry Seinfeld to create a series of television commercials for this tiny Aussie bank, prior to which Jerry had only done 2 commercials before that he'd lent his face to, and I believe it was Microsoft and
American Express,
and then this little Aussie bank. So I think, let's jump off there. I'm sure it's the first thing everybody asks you, but how on earth does an Aussie marketing guy like yourself make a deal happen with Jerry Seinfeld? Like, how do you even begin to do that?
Just pretty much because I'm very good. and I'm also humble. I don't go on about it. I've milked the shit out of that for about the last dozen years. That's right.
Yeah.
Look, not many people know, but I actually got Robin Williams before him. So what had happened is that we had developed a concept for the Greater Building Society, which is a challenger brand. They're not up there with the Combank or Westpac, or if you're listening in America, they're not up there with the Wells Fargo banks. So being a challenger brand, I explained to them what Virgin did when they came to Australia. They said, keep the air fair. So we all thought Qantas must have been ripping us off for all the years beforehand. So challenger brand challenges. And so I taught them all about challenger brand marketing. And I'll never forget, I said to them at a management meeting on one day, I threw a Happy Meal box in the middle of the table. And they said, what's that? I said, I don't know, Anthony Robbins told me to break the mold, so that's what I'm doing. But, anybody around this table, if you've got children or grandchildren, tell me how much is a Happy Meal. No one could tell me. They never got within $1 because of the free toy. So I said, take their eyes off the price. Stop selling on price, because the Commonwealth Bank, it will beat you every time. If you're 6.4% for a home loan, they're going to be 6.3 that afternoon. Do something different. And they said, well, what's that? My business is called the Institute of Wow. So I said, well, wow factor. And they said, well, like what? I said, I don't know. I just thought I'd tell you, you've got to think differently. Anyways, it turned out I was doing some Kerry Ann commercials at the time at Channel 9, and it was for a holiday travel wholesale company. So I introduced them to the Greater, and the Greater would get a $5,000 holiday for 2.5, right? And so that's what we did. We stopped the honeymoon rate. So this was cost neutral. This didn't even cost them any money, okay? Seinfeld comes along in a moment, okay? But the thing is that they got on TV, said, get a home loan, get a free holiday. And basically it was paid for by the honeymoon rate disappearing, okay? So therefore, if the honeymoon rate was 1% for the first year, that went away. They gave that to the travel company and they gave a holiday. It went nuts for 3 or 4 years, absolutely crazy. And then the general manager of the Building Society said, what do you got next? I didn't really want to say nothing. So I just said, well, look, why don't we take it to another level and get a celebrity? And they said, yeah, okay, who? I said, I don't know. And a mate of mine was doing the Billy Connolly ING commercials. I don't know whether you'd be over that. I said, how do you get Billy Connolly? He said, basically wherever he is in the world, we just give him $1 million and we fly there and, shoot some ads for a day, come back to Australia. Sounds good. So I put the same deal to Robin Williams. And I flew over to New York and we got the deal. And then I rang up the Greater and told them to build a statue of me outside the building because I just got Robin Williams. We're looking for a cheeky person. We were like, the greatest brand was anti-bank, so it was very cheeky and Virgin-esque. And you wouldn't believe it. I'm showing you off like you wouldn't believe. Of course, on the phone to the general manager of the Building Society saying, look, I've just scored the coup of the century. I get off the plane in Sydney and Robin Williams management rings me to say he's just got a movie and he can't do it. So, of course, I went from the penthouse to the basement without taking the elevator. So we had to go back again. And I pitched to, Jerry, went on for about 6 months because he's harder to get to than the Pope. And eventually he said yes. So I just went over for 3 years backwards and forwards doing the TV commercials with him.
Okay, so there was a lot in there that I want to unpack, because what we were really hoping to do here today is get inside that brain of yours, and you are, like many of our guests, what we call unconsciously competent. I'm sure you've heard the phrase before. There's 4 levels of learning, but everybody watching this, you're watching a master here. And so masters are people who are unconsciously great at what they do. They're just good at it, and they don't really think about all the steps involved. And what we love doing on this pod is getting to those steps. And for many people watching, when it comes to marketing, you're in the first stage of learning, which is unconsciously incompetent, which is kind of like when you have never played golf before. You are unconsciously unaware of how bad you are until you try to swing a golf club. And then you immediately move to the second phase of learning, which is consciously competent, which is consciously incompetent, which means now you're hopeless and you're working on it. And the next one is consciously competent, which is where you get good at it, but you still got to think about it. Think about driving a car. You can, clutch in, release it. And then the last is where you're driving the car, you're doing your makeup while you're driving and you're not even thinking about it. So what we want to do is try and unpack some of this stuff. So I want to start with a free holiday, and then we're going to loop back to the exact process of Robin Williams and Jerry Seinfeld, because I want people, you guys listening at home, wherever you're listening, whether you're on a plane, a boat, whatever, the one thing that I want to raise a flag for right up front is the one thing you can call John many things, but a small thinker is not one of them, right? Somebody who puts limits on his business and who's available, that's the one thing you can't accuse him of. So let's start back at the Kerry Ann. So Kerry Ann Kenley, just for the listeners who don't know who that is, so they're either too young or they're a foreigner like Eric. What's the Kerry Ann Kenley show?
Look, it's just morning TV, the infomercials. So whatever country one might live in who's listening to this, it's the typical morning television infomercials, the George Foreman barbecue and so.
Yes. Yeah. So back in the day in Australia, those were big, right? Everybody watched those. I went on the Bert Newton show when I was 22. Everyone loved Bert and everybody watched TV back then. It's all, dispensed now across the internet and digital. So basically you went and you had a relationship with a wholesale travel company who would sell travel at wholesale, and you went to the bank and saw an opportunity. What I love about this is you gave the customers something they really wanted, right? The average Australian really wanted what you gave away. How do you think about that kind of stuff when you're going into deals? Is it as simple as that? Like just getting down to brass tacks and saying, what do these people actually really want? Not what do I want to sell them, but what do they actually want?
Adam, look, it's throughout the years, and I'm going to do some name dropping here, I'm sorry, but,
Please do.
Yeah, because, there was Pope Francis, and we'll get to that later on, but there was McDonald's and KFC, and I did all the scratch bingos for News Limited, Murdoch newspapers and all that sort of stuff. So I was familiar with what they call incentive-based marketing. Mm. And if you're going to have an incentive for Billabong, then it better not be a microwave oven. It better be a skateboard. Okay, so therefore the incentive has to be, relevant to the target audience. In the Greater Building Society's instance, their target audience is anyone with a pulse over the age of maybe 25 who is interested in buying a home. They sell home loans and personal loans. Okay, and so therefore what you're looking for them is an incentive that's a wow factor that has universal appeal. And it's very difficult to find something with a universal appeal outside of a dining voucher or a petrol voucher. They're the only other two. If you said to me what are the top 3 incentives, because I've tried everything, from skateboards to bicycles to motor cars, you name it, it's petrol discounts. I used to be the marketing guy at Woolworths, so I'm pretty familiar with petrol discounts. Second one is dining vouchers, because that's appealing to all ages and both sexes. But the number one by a million miles is a vacation. So that's why we did it. We said it didn't matter whether you're a 25-year-old getting a home loan or you're a 75-year-old, then we're going to give you a free vacation.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, and you use a word there. Your business is called the Wow Institute.
Yeah, I tried to get that, but it wasn't available. So it's the Institute of Wow.
Okay, wow. Okay, Institute of Wow. But the key word being wow, right? That's you're trying to elicit that response from businesses and also their clients when they find out about the deal, right? Jerry Seinfeld, wow, that's amazing. Free holiday if I change my home loan, wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
So you simply went to Greater Union and sort of put the put the two together, you know?
Yeah.
And you said about the honeymoon rate. What's a honeymoon rate for people who don't understand?
Oh, okay. So most banks do it till today. They've been doing it for 1,000 years. And that is that let's just say the interest rate for a home loan is 5%. They'll give it to you for 4% for the first year. So you go, oh, wow, isn't that good? Yeah. And then it'll jump back up to 5% after the first year.
So you just dropped that as an offer and replaced the 1% interest rate saving. You said, don't worry about offering that. Offer them a holiday, kind of like with the Happy Meals. Yeah. Nobody asks about the price because the kid wants the toy. You're going to buy it anyway.
You got it. And they're the only bank in the world that for 10 years never, ever advertised a price. Not once in 10 years. Can you believe that? Like,
when you think about that in the context of Australian banks, that's all they advertise is that, used to anyway.
Well, but Adam, the thing I had to explain to them, because seriously, the management or board of a bank are not going to have their own Tonight Show. In fact, I don't think they'll ever have a podcast. They're missing in personality. All right. So therefore, I had to get them all around the boardroom table in meetings to say, look, you've got to understand, if I buy Cadbury chocolate, that's very different from No Name, and so therefore I'll pay the premium. If I buy Kellogg's, it's different from a No Name breakfast cereal. In your instance, if I get the $1 million from you for a home loan versus getting it from the Commonwealth Bank, it's the same $1 million. So you've got to come up with an artificial wow factor. So Apple's never going to use my services. They've already got an organic wow factor. Okay, they'll never want JD, bro. But if you're a No Name software company, then you need my help, because I'm going to come up with an artificial wow factor because you're the same as everyone else. You're in the Me Too industry.
Yeah, interesting. So this time, were you running the Institute of Wow? Was it your own advertising consultancy, or it's always been the Institute of Wow?
Yeah, no, it was. We had 20-odd staff at the time. I was still doing, these days we're a smaller boutique, but those days, I was doing quite a few dollars. And so therefore we were doing the big scratch bingos for the newspapers, and we're doing KFC and Macca's promotions and stuff like that. And this happened to be another client. And the good part about this client, though, is that they were not marketing savvy. They were basically doing brand commercials on the side of billboards along the road, basically just showing the logo. And I always would say to them, do you really honestly think someone's going to be driving home from work, they look up and see the greatest logo and go, I need a home loan? It's not going to happen. So I taught them direct response marketing, which is all about problem solution, as you know.
So reaching out to Robin Williams at this point, you go, okay, now you've got this holiday, what's next? And it's to get this brand name celebrity that aligns with their brand values of being a cheeky challenger brand. How does one go about reaching out to a Hollywood superstar like that and initiating that conversation technically and practically? How do you do that?
I wish I could say how difficult. Well, I wish I could say it's really difficult, but in the age that we live now, you Google Robin Williams, and Robin's passed away now, but at the time, Robin Williams management, and up will come, creative artist or whoever it might be. There's more to it than that, of course. And in his instance, I flew to New York, I sat down with his management, we did the deal. But in Seinfeld's instance, even though I found his agent, who was in Los Angeles, we really got it across the line where we dealt with his manager, which is George Shapiro. George only passed away about 12, 18 months ago, but he was his long-term manager for 40-odd years, and he's more sarcastic than me. So when we got on the phone, it was... Because what happened in the first phone call that I left, I found out his personal phone number and left a message after hours, and that message was as close as I could get to Paul Hogan or Steve Irwin as I could. It was, "G'day, George. Look, it's JD here from Australia, mate. That stands for John Dwyer. Just wondering if Jerry might be interested in doing a TV campaign for a bank in Australia, mate, and it'd be a ripper sport if he could do it, blah, blah, as much Aussie as he could." He rings me back and he goes, I couldn't understand most of what you said, but you want Jerry to do an ad for a building company? I said, no, it's a building society. What's a building society? So you think yourself, you got more money than God, you would have never been to a bank or to borrow anything, So anyway, I explained to him, and we got on like a house on fire. I had looked up his history, and he'd produced a couple of documentaries about him and some of the guys that he messed around with back in his early days. And so I made sure I watched them, and I quoted them in the phone call. Well, of course, you quote someone's video or movie or something in the phone call, all of a sudden, you got their attention. So he said, you know what, we should do something. And you know what, within a week, the deal was done. It was good. I mean, it was a bit of argy-bargy backwards and forwards, but... And it wasn't about the money, although Jerry had good money, but the thing was that it was all about the fact that he could take the piss out of the banks. And I asked Jerry when I went over to meet him for the first time, I said, why do you do this? I mean, at the end of the day, I'll tell you what he got. He got 1.1 a year for 3 years. So he got 3.3. Ricky Ponting gets more than that from Synovus Vitamins. So, yeah, we got the biggest comedian in the world for less than what they pay Ricky Ponting to do ads here in Australia. But I said, mate, what did you do this? You got more money than God. And he goes, basically, you asked me to take the piss out of the banks. I take the piss for a living. I thought that'd be good fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting. And the deal with Robin was the same. So just the same deal.
Exactly.
And I suppose saying, we had Robin, but he's got a movie, that kind of pre-qualifies you a little bit, sort of to an extent. It helps.
Well, see, I was an idiot and still am because when we were going to, the Building Society had ran this get a home loan, get a free holiday promotion for 3 or 4 years before this happened. So it went apeshit. Okay, they just come on TV. I'd go into people's homes with a camera crew, and it was a similar sort of setting to this. And it was quite funny because I would basically tell them what they needed to say. I never told them to lie. It's just that, Bill and Betty Bankstown are pretty boring, And so therefore they go, well, we got a home loan from the grader and we got a free holiday. Oh, no, look, please, with some impact. We got a home loan with how about I tell you what to say? We were with one of those nasty banks. They treated us like a number. We swapped to the grader and we went to Fiji. Well, after 64 more takes, we would get that, okay? And eventually at the end of it, I couldn't help myself. I'd say, Betty, Jim, I'd like to say that was the best testimony we ever had. And they go, after realising that they were idiots, they would go, thank you. I go, no, you misunderstood what I said. I said, I'd like to say that. I can't. You were awful. As it turned out, the camera crew who hated me got Seinfeld to do the same thing. So over in America, when we were doing this, they got me next to Joe. I knew what was happening, but as if I'm going to stop it. So Jerry says, I'd like to say you were the best advertising guy I've ever dealt with. And I go, oh, thank you, Jerry. He said, no, I'd like to say that I can't, So what happened, it really went well for 3 or 4 years. And we're talking billions, not millions, billions and billions of extra dollars in home loans came through. And that's when we got Seinfeld involved about the 4th year. And of course, bang, if they thought it was successful at that point, get a home loan, get a free holiday. You can imagine, but Jerry Seinfeld saying, get a home loan, get a free holiday.
Is it publicly traded or is it a private company?
No, private.
Private. Yeah. So with that period of time that you were involved, is there any metrics around like where they were and where they got to? And while you're thinking about that, Richard, could you cue up one of these commercials that we want to play in a minute, just so people can see a commercial and maybe Jerry taking the piss out of John in a minute. So do you have any of those metrics around the growth of like how many loans they were writing, how many they did after it at those certain points?
And I have, but because they got me to write, so I can't reveal them, but we're talking billions of dollars. And I remember Gail, my wife, who's just in the studio watching her husband make a fool of himself. I said to her at one stage, you realise that had I got a percentage, even 0.1% of the lift in home loans, we wouldn't have gone to Fiji. We would have bought Fiji, because it just went absolute apeshit. And is still, I suspect, renowned in the financial industry as being like something that they've never seen before.
James, what was the metric you read on the page?
Yeah, it was just,
Google ranks.
It was your Google post. They went from minimum 1,000 or something to 5.4 million. So unpack that for us because that's a public.
Sure. What happened because. At the moment that we sent out the press release, as you can see, I'm very shy. So therefore, the moment we sent out 4 million press releases and said that John Dwyer had got Jerry Seinfeld, we're on everything, the Today Show, the Sunrise program, Current Affair, the whole thing, every news item. And what happened is that the statistic of people searching the Greater Building Society beforehand, like the day before, was like 1,242 or something, and it went to 5.2 million.
just on that, when you say the press releases, just so you can unpack that. So you've got Jerry Seinfeld, you've got an ad that's about to run on television. What are you sending it? Who are you sending it to? And what's the expectation so that they can blow it up like they did online?
Yeah, look, just one word, Seinfeld. That's all you got to do. I mean, because he is, as well known as the Pope or the President. All you've got to do is just say, Aussie Bank scores Jerry Seinfeld to be spokesman. Bang.
So we'll send it off to the PR department of Channel 7, Channel 9, radio, this, that, and it just goes viral and they all pick it up.
Look, these days, there's online, PR companies where you pay them a lot less dollars than we did back in those days. This was a dozen years ago. And so therefore they spread it out for you. They spread it out for you instantly. But in those days, it was a PR firm that just did it, yeah.
Because I guess, if you're a journo and you're sitting there watching your inbox for stories and then all of a sudden Seinfeld pops up somewhere, it's that celebrity, like, oh, that's interesting. It's the power of celebrity cannot be understated. It's kind of fascinating. We Yeah, we experience it in a tiny way. Just even we're putting our faces on the bus that's getting around the Gold Coast at the moment. All of a sudden, you're on the side of a bus, and people are like, "Oh my God, I saw the bus!" And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "It's a Gold Coast City Council bus."
Well,
I can't even imagine like having Jerry Seinfeld endorse the show. You know, it really does have an impact. And Aussies tend to say, it's a bit wankerish or whatever. But mate, dude, if you've got a big name on it, it pays off in spades.
well, he knew that it was pretty easy to get publicity for that. And, we had that many requests from newspapers and TV stations. Could he actually do it? And he did one. He did one for us, but, he's got to draw the line somewhere. But I put my hand up because I'm so shy. So I put my hand up. So I'll go on Sunrise. I'll go on Current Affair. I'm quite not Current Affair because I've been on there before running down the street. But the other program's not a problem.
And for you personally, or as a business, I mean, the halo effect of having him on there would have done wonders for you guys.
Everybody hates me because of it, because I've never let it go. I've milked the crap out of it. And in fact, the funny part about it, the first year that we did it, I was running around doing seminars. So the ads for my seminars were, come to see JD, the guy that Jerry Seinfeld trusted with his latest advertising, blah, blah. And you'd fill some rooms because obviously it had a bit of star power to it. But I had it all over my website and still do, and as you can see. And on the second year I went back, I said to Seinfeld, he never had a website at the time, would you believe? And I said to him, we just having a coffee. I said, Jerry, do you understand, this is me putting my marketing hat on, how many T-shirts and Seinfeld caps you could sell if you had a website? And he had reading glasses on, and he was like the school principal. He put them down on his nose and said, JD, do I look like I need to sell any caps or T-shirts? And I said, sorry, I forgot,
Because he was the highest paid TV star in the world in the end, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we gave him was petty cash to him. But the thing is, he said to me, by the way, why would I need a website? He said, I've looked at yours. I'm on there more than you.
Yeah. I believe he's getting about $50 million a year in royalties now, just from the show. Just James, before we jump on, Richard, if you could just cue up the news article in America where they were shooting the commercial and then the news covered it. That's what I'd like to jump to in a moment, just so we can actually see the hoopla of when this commercial was shot in New York. JD was there.
It was the second biggest, the second story of that night. So the first story was, a guy with a machine gun walked into a fast food restaurant or something. The second story was Seinfeld comes back.
We'll play in a minute. James?
I was just going to say for that, as you said, Seinfeld doesn't need the money, 1.1's probably pocket change in the center console of his car. What was the commitment for him as far as ads or per annum? Like he had 3 sets, 4 sets. What was his?
2 days a year.
2 days a year.
Yeah. So therefore, I just fly over there and we'd have a day before meeting in his office and prepping it and doing everything else. I had to sort of explain to him, no kangaroo. Part of the deal was he has to have 2 writers with him on either side of him, and he'll bounce ideas off them whilst he's doing that. So what happened, we mocked up a fake building society branch, and when you're dealing with Seinfeld, it was fully fitted out, not just the facade, the whole thing was fitted. So with the door open on TV, you could see inside it was a proper branch. I mean, it was full on. There was 84 people on the shirt. And the cars in the road were all New South Wales number plates. The trees, we put gum trees in the street, replaced all the trees. I mean, it was like nuts, because when you're dealing with him, the eye for detail is, big time. But every now and again, one of his writers, who we had to pay, I think, $5,000 a day on either side of him, that he'd bounce ideas off because he's fluid. He's like you guys doing a podcast. He wants to keep it fluid. I've just had legal and compliance from a bank sign off on, 16 ads. They're not fluid. They know what you can say on TV and what you can't. So as Jerry's having a bit, he said, JD, let's have a bit of a brainstorm. And there'd be the 2 writers there. And one of the writers go, kangaroos, that's what we need. Like, what? Legal and compliance have not signed off on kangaroo. And the other guy said, koalas, we're going to have koalas in the trees. No, we can't do that. You've already signed off on the whole thing. Oh, and then one guy come back and said, look, I have one of the girls, the New York Zoo, can give us a kangaroo.
And just imagine. Oh, my goodness. Well, let's play this ad and have a bit of a look, and then we'll come back to it.
He's one of TV's best-loved comedians, but today Jerry Seinfeld was playing pitchman.
Seinfeld was shooting a commercial in Cedarhurst and creating quite the buzz in town among the locals. Here's CBS 2's Scott Rappaport.
What's the deal with all the cops?
It's all crazy. I'm not allowed to be interviewed, sorry.
What?
I mean, what is the deal?
Jerry Seinfeld is here.
Quiet, please.
Yup, behind the plethora of police and fancy movie equipment in Cedarhurst.
Hi.
That's Jerry Seinfeld, animated, keeping hydrated, shooting a commercial for an Australian bank right in the middle of town.
It's really cool. Like, nothing ever happens in Cedarhurst, so it's great.
As scores of the curious and starstruck
He's practicing all his takes. It's really cool.
came out in hopes of getting a glimpse of comic royalty.
We were here since 7 in the morning, and we waited by the trailer, and Jerry came out, and he signed our Friends Brothers cast, and we said hi to him, and someone high-fived him, and he was so nice, and it's so exciting.
Do we need to call you a paramedic?
Not yet.
So why here in Cedarhurst? Jerry's people said he wasn't talking, but we got the scoop from the folks from the bank down under who hired him.
We figured that Jerry Seinfeld's a big enough star to do the commercial where he wanted to do it, and he wanted to do it here.
Really?
Yeah.
Why here?
Yeah, well, it's more convenient for him.
They went all out for the shoot, creating a makeshift bank out of one of the stores right here on Cedarhurst Avenue. Yep, no expense was spared.
How much does he make for something like this?
I think we're paying about $10.50, and then there's some lunch money in there as well. Yeah.
But a rich experience for stargazers here in a most unlikely place. Scott Rappaport, CBS 2 News.
But that's in Australian dollars, so you don't tell me how much that is in the U.S. The bank commercial will air in Australia in July. And Jerry, if you're watching, if you want to come back on television, if you're bored, CBS would love to have you. Julie Louis-Dreyfus has a hit on CBS.
She sure does.
New Adventures of Old Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Good show.
So there you have it. I love the Aussie humor in that one.
What year was that?
About a dozen years ago, so we're talking 2011. Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
And at the time when you did the deal, obviously I'm assuming you're on a retainer with the bank.
Yep.
Was there any negotiations, or did you have it in your mind at all to do kind of some type of percentage at that time when you said, a point was 0.0001? What about Fiji?
Yeah, it's funny you should bring it up, Eric, because I did actually pose that. I mean, once you move into the seminar presentation game, as I did after that, you learn about scaling, which you guys are very good at. At that time, because it was a consultancy agreement, I probably wasn't as clever as I should have been, but I did pose that question to them. And they're very nice people, don't get me wrong. The management of this bank were very nice. In fact, they actually kept on telling me to put my price up each month. That's how nice they were. But they said they couldn't do a percentage deal because the Reserve Bank could drop interest rates by 0.5% tomorrow.
And it changed the
And it changes the whole landscape of, the loan. So I said to them, no, we could build in some sort of factor for that, but never got away with it. And it's just a shame because, I would have my own private island now.
So how many years, was it 3 years or 4 years they ran that?
Seinfeld was 3 years, but they ran the actual get a home loan, get a free holiday for 10 years without not once advertising an interest rate.
And then after Seinfeld, did you continue to work with them? Or was that like, I'll never be able to compete with that ever again?
Eric, I've got to say this to you. The crazy thing was because in the halfway through, there's a really interesting story, and I'm saying that just in case it's boring so that people will hang around thinking it might be interesting. But the interesting story about that is on the third year, about halfway through, I shook their hands and said, look, I'm going to go on the seminar circuit and do my stuff with smaller businesses now, right?
Yeah.
And they said, okay. So as it turned out, guess what? After 6 months and Seinfeld's 3-year contract came up, someone in senior management said to me, you should have been at the meeting, because what had happened is a new board came in, a brand new board. And this brand new board had not experienced the exhilaration of what had happened in the 3 years previously. And Seinfeld put his prices up to 1.5, from 1.1 to 1.5, which is nothing, and he wouldn't have even known. His people put it up, right? And the guy said he was in the management meeting, and one of the new board members said, who does he think he is? We can get Andrew Johns for less than that. Their head office is in Newcastle, right? And for those who don't know who Andrew Johns was, he's a Newcastle Knights rugby league player, right? And I said, you're kidding. And another person said, even Kerry Ann Kennelly wouldn't charge that much, right? So this is where, left-brain people you do not want to hang around with when you're talking stuff creative. And I would have jumped off a cliff if I was in that meeting, And anyway, as it turned out, of course, guess what? They went back to interest rates, and that's what they do today. I happen to know what happened to their market share, but I shouldn't know, but I did at the year or two after, and where it would have gone. The interesting thing is, let me throw this at you. The Building Society general manager had left not long after that, and he had lunch with me before he left, he had lunch with me one day. And he said, listen, you got any ideas of what we do? Because obviously Seinfeld's finished. They didn't pay him the extra money. Even George Shapiro, Seinfeld's manager, rang me up and said, JD, look, we're not fast. We don't, not exactly looking for the money. What happened? I said, look, I'm sorry I left, and a new board, a new management came in, and that's the way it is, okay. So the general manager has lunch with me one day, about 6 months later. He said, look, we're back in the interest rate game. What would you do? Who would you replace Seinfeld with if you were going to do another campaign for us? And he was a good mate. He lived with me throughout all of this, so I didn't mind giving him some free advice. He said, what celebrity would be? I said, mate, not a celebrity. You're not going to beat that. You can't get anyone else that's going to beat Seinfeld. Don't do that at all. I said, what you ought to do is be the kindest bank in the world. He said, what do you mean? I said, you've had me in numerous meetings when people were not paying their home loan back and they were basically going to foreclose the house. They're going to sell the house. I said, I told you every time not to do it because you'd be on current affair. The bank's always going to lose. He said, yeah, I remember that on numerous occasions. I said, imagine if a lady whose husband's left her and she's got 3 little kids and she can't make the payment. She can't make her home loan payments for 6 months. We have a secret camera. We knock on her door and she doesn't know we're filming this, but basically the guy from the grader in the uniform there says, look, Mrs. Smith, I've got to say you haven't paid your home repayments for 6 months. We're going to have to repossess your house. And the little kids in the background are crying and she's crying and this, that and the other. You know that we can repossess your house. And you can imagine the emotion in this. And he goes, yeah, go on. And I said, all of a sudden, he pulls a bit of paper out and he said, this is a letter from the Greater Building Society saying that we're going to pay your next 6 months worth of, repayments. She burst into tears and then he says, one more thing, forget it. We're going to pay your whole loan off. Can you imagine the impact of that? And all that comes up at the end of that ad is the Greater Building Society, we go further or something like that. And he had tears coming down his face. He went, oh my God. I said, but when you take that to the board, because they're left-brain thinkers, they're going to go, well, if we do that for one person, they're going to expect it for everybody. You tell that to Oprah when she said, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. When you came in to say Oprah the next week, you didn't expect a car. But if you ran an ad like that where you paid off the home loan of someone who's doing it tough, I'm telling you, your market share would skyrocket.
The Institute of Wow right there. Yeah. If you weren't a marketing man, mate, you would have made a great politician, apart from anti-wokeness, political incorrectness. But I mean, really, the thing about Bob Hawke, when I think about him, he had a unique sense of the Australian mindset and how Australians are, and I think you share that. You've got that really. It's easy to pass off under good humour and just miss that, but you really do have a very, very good sense of what matters to Australians.
Oh, thank you.
And in that era, it was fuel prices. It was exactly what you said. I remember as a kid driving past fuel stations and everybody did it, right? You'd drive, how much is that one? My dad drove around to 4 fuel stations to save 2 cents a litre or 1 cent a litre or something. Yeah. And that's Australian psychology, coming up with times were tough.
And I think too, and we'll probably touch on it, the TV show that I did, The Dreams Can Come True. I mean, that was all about helping needy people who just didn't have a hope otherwise. And I know you'll probably touch that in a minute. I've got to be careful with the cheeky Aussie humour though, because again, I'm looking over towards my wife because she knows what we're going to say. At the end of my seminars, when I do the sell, I would say, look, we do have some restrictions. We don't take on anyone. And of course, the BS seminar game, that's what they say. You've got to have application form and all this rubbish. And so I'm sort of anti-seminar as well. So I'd say, look, but we are, in the seminar game. So we do have restrictions. We don't take on any short people. And the reason for that, like Disneyland, we have a height restriction. So if you're short, then we can't do business with you. And I said, the other thing is if you're a woman we don't take any woman on who are named Beryl, Esme or Daphne. Have you ever met an interesting Beryl, Esme or Daphne? No, you haven't. So at the end of the thing, this guy comes up to me and he goes, JD, I want to buy your program. My wife's not here today, so she hasn't seen your song and dance. But we've got a problem. I said, everyone's got a problem. What's the problem? He goes, she's only 5'2". I said, mate, I have to take that to a committee meeting. I can't look at this as I take myself seriously. I mean, they're just the rules. It's like Disneyland. You can't get on the ride till you're 5'4". And he said, but it gets worse. I said, what's that? He said, her name's Daphne.
God, all right. So look, we've talked plenty about the Jerry Seinfeld, and I think the lessons from that are, think big and creatively. It's really powerful. I do want to change gears a little bit and talk about while we're still in the US, and then we'll come home to some of these great Australian stories. I can't wait to get into the NRL footy cards. I grew up on them. I probably bought a shitload of your cards with my pocket money. But let's talk about that, the TV show that you just mentioned there. That was quite remarkable as well. Feel Good TV. And you managed to get Michael Jordan involved and giving away a meeting with a young guy who, was it with Starlight or something? Or So it was, Make It a Wish or Starlight or something.
Yep.
Tell us about that. How do you get, you've got your Seinfeld and Michael Jordan, probably the biggest superstar of sport ever.
I said, I just got to take a call. The Pope Francis was that, mate. I'll get back to you. I'm busy at the moment. As he ultra name dropped. How that came about, mate, is that we were doing trading cards for all the Disney movies. So if Lion King came out, or Beauty and the Beast, or what have you, or Mario Brothers, whatever it might be, we would take out the license with the licensor, and we'd produce bubblegum trading cards. And as it turned out, I had to go over backwards and forwards to Burbank all the time to visit Disney. And on one occasion when I was away, the guy that worked for me, we had about 20 staff, he made a printing mistake on these cards. And these cards are printed on a big sheet about the size of your dinner table. And then they get cut up, of course, as they go through the machine and put into packs. They are normally numbered number 4, number 21, number 62, number 140. So when they get cut up, they're all jumbled up and go into the pack. This particular guy that was looking after it for me from my business numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which meant that when they got cut up and put into the packs, you bought one pack at your local drugstore news agency and you got the Aladdin cards 1 to 6, and then you bought another pack 1 to 6, 1 to 6, 1 to 6. So we had every, Darren Hench and Ray Martin, you name it, chasing me. Alan Jones, would you believe, chasing me, because they were on Talkback Radio hearing that their kids were going with their play money after school to buy the Aladdin cards or whatever it might be, getting the same 6 cards all the time. What a rip-off. So as it turns out, I arrived back from America and I've got this sad story that we've had to basically just burn the whole stock. So we lost $2.2 million in a week. And it wasn't fun, so therefore we lost our house and all the stuff that goes with it. I don't think we had 6 children at the time, we might have had 3. But anyway, it was tough times. And as it turns out, I'm going to be a little melancholy, but I called into church one morning as I dropped the kids off to school at Little St. Joseph's Church. And I just said a prayer to the guy upstairs and just said, look, any chance I get back on my feet again, I'll promise you I'll do something that might be inspirational to other people who, get knocked over. And as it turned out, we were pitching for the rugby league cards at the time. And I kept on bugging them. I thought if I got the rugby league cards, I could probably make a comeback. And it was in the era when Tina Turner was doing all the stuff, so rugby league was on a high. And Scanlon's Bubblegum had it before me. Well, there's 5 other companies pitching for it. Well, cut a long story short, I annoyed the shit out of the guy that was making the decision. And he said, well, make a decision soon. Just go away. And I was persistent. On the day that the bank said they were going to close me down, they said, we'll keep you open till the end of the month, and hopefully you get the rugby league cards, and then we'll keep you open. If you don't, then you close. 4 o'clock on the day that they were closing us at 5 o'clock, would you believe? So they go upstairs, works in funny ways. I get a call from the NRL guy. He says, JD, I made the decision. I'm shaking, of course. And he said, you've got the license. And I thank you so much, And he said, but on one condition. I said, what's that? He said, you never ring me again for the rest of your life. You are the most annoying bastard I've ever come across. And we decided to give it to you just to get rid of you. And I said, well, persistence beats intelligence. He said, well, you're lucky,
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the pod. I just want to take a quick moment to share a quick story with you about something going on in one of my businesses right now. We are using artificial intelligence to send a voice clone of myself directly into our customers' voicemail inboxes the moment after they purchase our product. Well, not the moment, a few minutes after. So with our toilets business, Dry Flush, people put in their name, their email, their phone number when they order the toilets. 5 minutes later, their phone rings once and it goes straight to their voicemail. And we're using an AI that clones my voice and says, hey, Terry, if that's their name, grabbing the name from the order form using my voice. It drops a customized voicemail to say, hey, Terry, what's going on? Adam here from Dry Flush. Just want to say thank you so much for ordering one of our toilets. Sorry I missed you. I just wanted to let you know that we appreciate your business. If there's anything you need, just send us an email at hello@dryflush.com.au. And that goes out to every customer every time a few minutes after the purchase. This is what the team at earlybird.ai are building for us right now, as along with some other very, very cool solutions that are going to increase customer experience, increase the number of 5-star reviews we get, and automate the amazing experience that we are aiming to provide when you buy from our e-commerce store. So if you want to learn about that and your business is doing over $500,000 a year, you qualify for a free audit with the team at earlybird.ai. That's EARLI, earlybird.ai. And they will do an audit of your business and show you how they can put artificial intelligence like that into your business, whether it's voice cloning, video face cloning, all kinds of amazing technologies that are available right now. So go over there, get your free audit, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So we got it, and what I did then was I went out to the footy show. I got Fatty involved. I got Mal Meninga, who was his last year playing football, and he's sort of icon status in the rugby league game, and so I got him and Ray Hadley and all these people to actually promote the cards. We gave millions of cards away to the Sunday newspapers, free sampling. And so they'd come on TV and spend $300,000 between Thursday and Saturday saying, buy the Sunday paper, get your free footy cards. It went from 2 to 12 million in one season. So the season before, the company that had the rugby league bubblegum cards did 2 million. We did 12 million the first year we had it. Back on our feet, got a house back again and so forth. And I said to Gail, my wife, look, I've got to pay back. The guy upstairs has, delivered a miracle to us. So we pitched a TV show to Channel 10. It was called Dreams Can Come True. And Mal Meninga helped me do a pilot, which is a little boy who was only 9 or 10 years of age. His father had bashed him and his mother up and left them for dead in a caravan park. And his dream of all dreams was just to see Mal Meninga. And we got Mal Meninga to surprise him at school and take him to New Zealand to a football game in the plane. And so I showed that to Channel 10. They're crying. They just couldn't believe it. And I'll never forget it. They said to me, what do you charge for this? I'd never done a TV show before. I was a complete imposter. I'd done millions of TV ads, but not TV show. I didn't know how much to charge for it. So when they said, have you got big stars? And the woman that was with me said, she's just sitting there. She was helping me put the damn thing together. And they said, look, we like this and we'll get half a dozen shows from you. But what does it cost? I had no clue. I just made up a number. I said, $142,000. They went, we get 90210 for 25. And I felt like saying, well, we'll do it for 25. But anyway, as it turned out, I said, yeah. They said, well, you have to have some big stars. So I said, we have. And they said, like who? I went, Michael Jordan. The lady next to me, she's looking at me like, what? WTF multiplied by 10. And I said, yeah. And they said, how do you know him? I said, oh, well, we're BFs because I do the bubblegum cards and he's in basketball cards. It's a long story, but anyway, we'll get Michael Jordan. They said, you got 6 episodes. And we're up against 60 minutes on a Sunday night. We won the ratings. So therefore, I remember waving goodbye to them in the elevator. And Linda, who was with me, as the doors closed and we're jumping up and down. It's our first TV show. And I said, Linda, just one thing I've got to ask you to do for me. And she said, what's that? I said, get bloody Michael Jordan.
So you just bullshitted your way into this. You weren't friends with him at that point.
No, I couldn't spell his name.
But for people listening who weren't around in Australia at that time, like you, Eric, like that time in rugby league was peak rugby league, in my opinion. Yeah, Tina Turner, Simply the Best. It was when, I think it was around the same time that Mike Tyson was still fighting. It was just one of those eras. It was the sport in Australia. It still is, but it was iconic at that time. And Mal Meninga was a mega star. So those cards there, I bought those cards as a kid. Yeah. And all that, the card collector books, all that sort of stuff. And so you basically blagged your way into these.
Well, the guy upstairs does work in funny ways. And it was a fax in those days, so it wasn't email. So it was a fax to Michael Jordan's office the day after. And I had a fax coming in my machine the next morning. I just said, look, we've got a little boy. And we'd already sussed out this parish priest in Gosford told us a little boy called Jay Campbell suffered from spina bifida, and he tried to commit suicide, unfortunately, and didn't do it, thank God. His dream of all dreams was just to get an autograph of Michael Jordan. He was a wheelchair basketballer, and as it turned out, after he was unsuccessful at committing suicide, his parents talked him into taking up a sport, which is a wheelchair basketball. He was in the New South Wales side at 16 or 15, and you wouldn't believe it. If they scored 50 points, he scored 40 of them. He just had an unbelievable skill in his wheelchair. And so we decided to make the dream come true for him, not an autograph, but, we'd take him to meet Michael Jordan. So I put this to Michael Jordan, and I asked him once we pulled this off, by the way, what happened. He said, you're not going to believe it. He said, I get 2 million requests a week. I was in my office in Chicago. I only go in there once every 3 weeks. And he said, the guy upstairs must have been looking favourably down upon you because I walked past the fax machine and zip, 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 your fax was coming out. I read it and I told my secretary to make this one happen.
Is that right? Was it like, this might sound dumb, but I wonder if it literally was 2 million a week because he was the biggest.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan at that time, because I saw the video and that was while he was playing.
Yeah, his last season.
Yeah, his last season. So, Michael Jordan would go into a restaurant and he would be out of the car park the car on the street. Nobody knew he was coming, and if one person saw him, by the time he came out from dinner, there'd be thousands of people waiting for him to come out. That's how famous he was at that time.
Well, Adam, so this was, we took the little boy over and the lunch, Michael Jordan took him to lunch in the Michael Jordan restaurant. He has his own restaurant I don't know whether he still has it, but he had his own 2-story restaurant. So not only was the little boy meeting Michael Jordan, but he was having lunch with him in the Michael Jordan restaurant. He went to the game the night before, but can you imagine, Yeah.
You can see it on the website. We'll put the link in the show notes. Can we just make a note of that, Richard, to get that over to Perry to put that in the show notes, a link to this video, because we won't play it now, but because it's a bit of a longer video, but it's a beautiful video, and it's a real tearjerker. And when Michael walks in, you can just, it's incredible. And he walks in and he goes and asks him and he takes his time with him too. It wasn't just a quick little, hey, thanks for coming, got to go. He actually sat down, asked him some questions, how he is. It's an incredible video. So,
and I have to say, I hate the camera crew that was with me, because we took an Australian camera crew over, and because I'm a bit cheeky, they paid back. They've all got photos with Michael Jordan because they asked me to take them. So I took all the photos with Michael Jordan, right? But it was a camera at that stage. We weren't using our phones. I mean, iPhones were around, but we just used a camera. So anyway, as it turned out, I asked them to do the same thing with me, and I had a book. And I was getting them signed for my two little boys at the time. I mean, they're adults now, but at the time they were little kids. So Michael Jordan signs the book. Guess what? I got a photo of two black hands signing a book. Yeah.
Well played.
You cannot prove that's Michael Jordan.
That's hilarious. Well, we believe you, JD. Millions wouldn't, but we believe you. That's funny. Great story. So let's move the story back to the footy cards, because you're running this marketing business. And so, because I think there's a lot of people out there wondering how these licensing rights and stuff work. So, because we've actually got a coaching client at the moment who has got a product that went on Shark Tank. And she's, I don't know if it's signed yet or not, but it's not signed yet. But she's in the process of negotiating with Warner Brothers and the Harry Potter franchise. And they basically charge an annual fee and then a percentage of sales.
Yep.
Is that kind of how it works? So you find these companies that have these sports properties or whatever, and then you go them, and obviously footy cards were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They used to approach them and pitch them and say why you're going to get the rights. Why did they give it to you, and how did you get it from 2 to 10 million? What was the magic there?
I think the system is the same. I don't do it these days, but I think it's pretty much the same. They will charge you 10 or 12.5 or 15%, whatever the going rate is, but they will have a minimum guarantee. So the rugby league instance, it was, I think, 10% at the time, but a minimum guarantee of $100,000. So you have to cough up the $100,000 if you don't end up selling the stuff. As it turned out, because we sold $6 million at wholesale and $12 million at retail, their percentage is on the wholesale. So therefore, we did a deal of 10% of wholesale, which is 10% of $600,000 that season. So they got 600 instead of the 100 minimum guarantee that they asked for. So we were pretty popular with John Quayle and the rest of them that ran it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, their trading cards were the number 17th out of 60 licenses for rugby league. They were number 17 when we came in, because the bubblegum company had it the year before. And of course, clothing, caps and T-shirts and jumpers, that's number 1, 2, 3. We went to number 2 in one season. Yeah.
Wow, just in trading cards.
But the same thing, Adam, whether it's Warner Brothers or DreamWorks or Disney or what have you, normally it's a set percentage fee against wholesale and then a minimum guarantee.
And tell her, I know the story, but how did you approach making the cards wow? Like, so that they went from 2 to what did you do that hadn't been done before? I mean, that's a massive increase. That's a 6x in 1 year.
I told you I'm pretty good. I told you that.
Mate, we believe you.
Yeah. I'll just check. My wife's laughing as she is. Again, the wow factor, mate, what happened is that the trading card companies here in Australia had not taken on what the baseball trading card companies had done in America and Canada, and that is what we call chase cards. And so therefore we turned the packets of footy cards into a poker machine, and just like gambling, basically once we got them on the habit, they couldn't get off. So, we would have an average of $242 a child to collect the set. Because you even remember when we were kids, I collected them, when I was a kid, and you were after number 64 and 42. You'd do anything at the stock exchange, which in the school playground, to swap cards. And so, that's what we did. We put a chase card in. So therefore, 1 out of every X number of packs, I forget what it was now, but it might have been 1 out of 10. There was a special lenticular card in there that was gold plated and, well, not gold plated, but, gold embossed and so forth. And then 1 out of every 50 packs had what we call a mega motion card. Now, it's old-fashioned now, but in that day, we're talking back mid-90s, this thing, when you actually moved it, instead of a lenticular just going sort of, maybe 2 or 3 different sort of positions, this was a video card well before, what we've got these days with AI. When you moved it, you saw Mal Meninga over 5 seconds running and scoring a try. Now, if you got that out of your packet of cards, you were a hero at school, absolute hero at school. The funny part about it was just that I was back in the office one night and all the 20 staff had left and the phone rings. So he said he had answers on a Friday night, and there's this distraught father, and he says to me, I want to talk to someone from customer service. I said, you're talking to him? There's no one else here. And he said, well, I've got a complaint to make. I want to go to the ACCC. This is stupid. My kid has spent $300 on your so-and-so bloody cards. And he said, all we need is number 62. That's all we need to get the whole set. And he said, I'll pay anything for it. Tell me it's $50. I just want card 62 to stop him going to the news agency. I said, look, I'd like to help him, but we don't print a card 62. He went nuts. He went apeshit. He went, what? I'm taking you to legal action. And he went off like for 5 minutes. I said, no, listen, I'm the owner. I was just joking. Yeah, I'll give you a whole new set and 62. He said, you shouldn't do that. I said, it's a gift.
Are you the type of bloke that if you do a jigsaw puzzle with you like throw one under the carpet?
Absolutely.
You prick.
Absolutely. Adam, we've got this now. Our 6 kids, because, I'm close to retirement age, although we're still doing this stuff, their kids will say to you, why don't you just, sort of relax and play golf? I said, I can't play golf. I wouldn't want to play golf. What about a hobby? And I said, what sort of hobby? They said, jigsaw. Why would you want to make something only then when you're finished to just pack it up again? That'd be like building a house and then just exploding the house. I mean, why would you do that? You know what it looks like on the outside of the damn box. Why would you want to spend 10 hours with this 1,000-piece jigsaw? I think people who do jigsaws and crosswords should be locked up.
He sounds awesome.
And Gail knows my latest. I mean, we've moved to Broadbeach. We've got to get a dog. I hate every animal, but you've got to get a dog because you can't go to a cafe without a dog. What's that all about? But back in my day, when Mum and Dad said we're going to the entrance for holidays from Sydney to the Gosford, they didn't say, we're taking Fluffy. Fluffy went to a neighbour. Now everybody takes their dog on holidays. I'm sorry, I get off subject, but anyway.
So, JD, you get these footy cards, you take them from 2 million to 12 million by basically making crack addicts out of children. I love it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they're making them gambling addicts.
Oh, this I've thought about.
He did say he set it up as like poker machines.
So, Adam, this is how evil I am. Gail's father, who's up in heaven now, but he was a compulsive gambler and lost 4 houses for Gail and the family. And so it was a pretty tragic sort of upbringing she had. And then she marries an entrepreneur that loses 2 million. That was like, she's smart. But anyway, the thing was that as her father would be losing money on the horses and races and poker machines, guess who my major clients were? Panthers Leagues Club and Parramatta Leagues. I'm trying to get people to play poker machines.
I mean, look, what I see as a thread here is you just seem to love the game, the challenge of trying to find out what's going to be creative and set things up. I mean, that would have been a fun project with the footy cards, I reckon.
There was.
How long did you do that for?
We had it for around about, I think it was around about 3 or 4 years before Super League came along. So Super League came along, I think, in 97.
Yeah.
And it really roughed up the game.
Yeah.
And so therefore I could see, I was out on the drink one night with Mal Meninga. He mentioned this thing called Super League, and I hadn't hit the news at that time. And I went, have another drink, have another drink, have another drink, And I saw what was coming. So I went home to Gail and said, do you want to get off the roller coaster and on the carousel? Because I think this is going to be deep, deep trouble. And we got out just in time.
Yeah, the card game back in the 90s was unreal. My dad was a big card collector, still kind of is actually. Upper Deck and Pinnacle, all those cards in the U.S. And I remember, rookie cards were a big thing in the U.S.
Exactly.
The year that the rookie came out, and some of them were upwards of tens of thousands of dollars back then.
For a piece of cardboard.
Yeah, and you can't touch it, and they got the sleeves, and you got the soft sleeve goes into the plat, like unbelievable.
But also, Eric, once they're autographed, once they like a Mal Meninga signed card, it was in the stock exchange, which is a school playground, it could be worth $50, $100, and I did a fantastic Mal Meninga signature. Like it was. you laugh, but we would pay the players $2 a card, and they'd sign 1,000 cards, so we'd give them $2,000, whatever it might be. And if they didn't sign enough, then I had to be creative, didn't I? Yeah.
So some poor kid sitting there with a JD signature thinking it's Mal Meninga. Who is this JD? It's a pretty impressive story, and I want to touch on a couple more of your marketing ploys, and I hope you guys listening are just getting a sense of the fun and the curiosity that underneath this, the joke is, is a really creative mind here, because footy cards prior to you were pretty boring. And you had these sort of animated, colourful foils. I bought all these as a kid, you know. They were all the rage. You would have as well, James, down in country New South Wales.
And Adam, sorry for butting in, but what happened in the past, there was one lot of cards came out for the whole season. We learned from the Americans who were doing it, and we would have 3 or 4 series throughout the year. So what you do is short supply, like anything that grows in value. If there's not enough of it, they'll pay more. So we would go series 1 from February through to the end of April, and then series 2, and then series 3. So that's why we went from 2 to 12 billion. We put out 3 series a year.
You remind me a bit of Kerry Packer in terms of the way he thought about cricket and transformed that game.
Oh, I thought maybe because I looked dead. That was it.
Oh, mate, you look like $1 million, mate, all green and wrinkly.
Adam, I got to, without butting in, I've got to show you this though. This is very interesting, and I brought it as Exhibit A. One of the things that I went to was a Disneyana conference. Now, these people are weirder than Star Trek people. These people are seriously tapped, right? And it was in Anaheim, of course, near Disneyland. And I had just done this poster, and we put this out through the Sunday papers, and I'll show it here. This is the only time in the world that all the Disney characters are in the one poster, because Disney does not like to do this. They want to break up the Lion King, Little Mermaid, Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Pluto, you know, all that. So I had an artist paid him $30,000 to put that together. And then what we did is we gave this away with the Sunday paper for a lousy $1.95. But the real one, this doesn't have it, had sticker spaces around the outside. And so therefore what happened is you got the poster with the Sunday paper, but then you had to go to the news aids and 2 stickers. And they put 1 sticker, number 64 up there, number 924 down here, and then scream out to Mum, I need the more stickers, because they had to fill the whole. And they had to go to the news agency, $2 for a pack of stickers, right? And they'd eventually fill it. We made $500,000 in 4 weeks just out of the stickers. It was like crazy. So therefore, I thought, well, I'll take this to the Disney conference, because this will freak them out. So I walked around. Gail, my wife, was with me. We'd walk around. It was your typical expo. It was like the Comic-Con things, but, you know, like just Disney. And they'd ask, oh, you funny accent from Australia, what do you do? I'd roll one of these out, and it was just so weird. It was like the Pied Piper. I had all these people following me. They said, how much would you charge for that? It cost me 50 cents to print or 30 cents to print. I go, oh, $5 a poster. I'll take 1,000.
Wow.
I'd walk another 10 yards. How much would you charge for that poster? Because they're just wetting themselves over this, because no one's ever seen it. $10. I'll take 1,000. I walked out of the conference. I said to go, we're coming to every Disneyana conference you could possibly think of. Funny part about it, and I'm going to show off here, the Disneyana Club grabbed a whole bunch of these off me, a fan club, and they rang me and said, Walt Disney's daughter bought 6 of them, and she said it was the best Disney poster she's ever seen. This is Walt Disney's daughter, yeah.
I feel like I remember that. Now that you're holding it up, I feel like I've seen that before, and that may be why. For those of you who don't, who are not watching on YouTube, John's holding up a big poster that's basically every Disney character. It looks like a Disney product, but...
I had to pay. We did the usual licensing and everything, yeah.
So parents around the country go, who is the bastard that created this?
My friends hated me because we all had young kids at the time. And of course, I looked after them, of course I did, but they say, you are a bastard. We're spending a fortune on all your shit.
Do you buy the present for kids, the fucking sound that doesn't stop as well, just to really annoy Australian families everywhere on Christmas?
That's like the footy card like this. The cost of goods is like next to zero for this.
Yeah, I think that might have been 30 cents.
So it's all margin. Yeah, and it's incredible.
It's almost like a digital product before digital.
Yeah. But you got to be creative to think about these things. It doesn't come by accident. Like, where does the creativity come from? Have you always been creative since you were a kid?
I think so, yeah. I must say I'm one of 3 boys in our family. My mum and dad are up in heaven, but they used to always talk about, going into the public. You guys have had it too. And of course, you're the weird ones in your families too, because you've set up businesses outside of a safe job. And they always my dad was a telephone technician. So they said, go down that path and get a safe job. Yeah, and I guess right from the start, I mean, I know, and I'll make this really quick because it could be boring. Even at the school fetes, instead of throw the coin on the table to win the fluffy, sort of bear or whatever it might be, I convinced them at year 10 we'd actually take over it was a Catholic school, we'd take over the actual triple garage that the De La Salle brothers parked their car in, and we turn it into a horror house. So this is at 16 years of age. We've just taken over a garage and turned it into a horror house. And
which house?
Horror, as in haunted horror.
Yes.
Horror, not horror.
I just wanted to make sure we're talking about this.
That's 16. Yeah. No, that happened 10 years later. That changed. It was they got a free Disney poster if they well, fair.
Now there's a poster.
Yeah, the poster every poster I ever made.
We love you a long time. You have poster. So anyway,
Stamp your coffee card. Oh, that's a great idea. Jack Shacks by JD. That's very good.
5 and 61. Right.
Oh God, the church is not going to watch this one.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Mate.
I was speaking of sex. I only said to my wife this morning, I reckon sex would be so much more enjoyable if only I had a partner. So anyway, what happened is that we would have this horror house, not a whorehouse. But it was, I'll tell you what, it was heading in that direction because what we did, year 10, years 15 or 16, we made sure that all the girls had to walk up a ramp, and underneath the ramp was one of those fans. And of course, it was all dark, of course, but we were in there dressed up as girls, we had torches, so therefore the fan would blow the dress up. So that was it. So it was moving on towards Schoolhouse, really.
All right, moving on from Disney posters to blowing girls' dresses up. Let's talk about. I
feel the editing.
I want to talk about this $1 million tea prize because I had a good. I thought that was really interesting. So. Was it Mildura Tea or which tea company was it?
Yeah, Mildura.
Mildura. Yeah. So my mum was a big tea drinker, and I remember this promotion where it was $1 million chance to win $1 million if you bought a box of Mildura tea.
Good.
Now, I just want to talk about how you structured that because that was very, very clever and would not occur to most people. Talk us through that campaign that you did for Mildura Tea. So for those who don't know, you might not know because you didn't grow up in Australia. There's really two big tea brands in Australia. There's Lipton and there's Mildura, right?
And Twinings.
And Lipton, Mildura and Twinings. So they were the 3 category leaders. And they came out with this $1 million tea prize. So how did that work?
They came on as a client, Mildura Tea, and they were 2 accountants. And so they said to me, look, we realised that we're pretty boring. And they'd met me at, I don't know, sometime before. And they said, listen, can you add some of this wild shit to what you do? And I said, yeah, okay. And so anyway, they were up against Twinings, which is the tea brand. It's the BMW, and Mildura is up there with them, but not quite. And I said, well, you can't take them on price, and your flavour you reckon is much the same. So you're in a Me Too category. You need an artificial wow factor because you don't have a regular organic wow factor. So I did my whole spiel with them, and they bought it. And so I said, okay, well, why don't we do $1 million giveaway? You imagine 2 accountants like that. They just claimed. Remember Rob Marish, the guy's name was, and you effing kidding. And their head office is just south of the Queensland border at Mooloolaba. So I went down to visit them and explained to them that it's an insured prize. So all the TV shows, they don't give away the $1 million. Who wants to be a millionaire is given away by an insurance company. So we've been doing this for years and years and years. So you can get $1 million for about 15 grand. Right? And I know whoever's listening to this is going, what? What happens is that at the end of the promotion, however long you want to run it, you have a preliminary draw. You draw out Betty Bankstown, and then in the old days, she would come to a boardroom somewhere and choose one of 100 or one of 200 envelopes. And the premium that you pay the insurance company is based on whether it's 100 envelopes, so it's a 1 in 100 chance, or 200 envelopes. And these days, it's a spinning wheel online. So that whoever you draw out just simply goes online at a designated time at 3 o'clock tomorrow. They press the spinning wheel, goes around. If it comes up, they win the $1 million. If it doesn't, they win a consolation prize, normally like a pencil. So just to stir them, okay, you win the $1 million, here's a pen. No, you don't, because they'll stab you in the eye with that. So what you do is you give me something that's worthwhile. You give them a holiday or a new kitchen or something, right? So anyway, what happened is that we did this, but we took it to another step. Because of my bingo background, doing all the bingos for newspapers and so forth, we turned it into a game of chance inside. So not only, most of the kids these days, I say kids because most of the ad agencies have got 27-year-olds, coming up with this rubbish. And most of it is rubbish because what they don't understand is that, just scanning a barcode is not exciting. It's just not exciting. Whereas what we did is that when you actually open up the box, you got inside and you looked at a sweepstakes ticket and it told you whether you got 4 entries or 5 entries or 10 entries. So it meant that, again, I turned the box into a poker machine. We had people that were buying, 40 boxes of Mildura tea at once at Woolworths to be able to get 40 times whatever the number of entries were in each box. It was just nuts. They sold out. This went nuts. They sold out within a week of launching this on TV. I don't know whether you want to play the TV ad, but anyway, the TV ad basically has people having a cup of tea saying, look, not only is it good, but I got the chance to win $1 million. And it just went nuts. They were up 30-something% in the first week, and then it just kept on growing.
Let's play the TV ad, Richard, if it's up there. I've got a lot of questions about this and while Richard's looking for this, I want to make
sorry, I think, Richard, it'll be in case studies of my website, theInstituteofWow.com, case studies. I don't think it's up there, sorry.
Instituteofwow.com, case studies. If you're listening, you can go and look at it as well. While he's looking for that, there's two types of people listening to this. There's people that are just driving along and heard that and they continue driving along. And then there's other people going, wait, what? Hang on, I can give away $1 million for a $15,000 insurance policy premium? Wow. There's a shitload of people that heard about us putting our ad on the bus. Only a small handful of people emailed to ask how much was the wrap on the bus.
Yep.
We said last Friday on the pod, we're going to put a billboard of Unemployable Media in Times Square, New York. And I said, I'll get it organized next week. And it's organized now. It's going to, yeah. And that's the difference between entrepreneurs that actually get to tell stories when they get to your age because they actually did shit, as opposed to people who just listen passively, their day goes by. So if you're listening to this, did I just call you out? And if I did, I'm glad, because your life is not going to change if you don't start paying close attention and actioning this. John's just told you that he put $1 million prize on a consumer product and sales went crazy. So what I would be doing is asking, how do I get, where do I go to get $1 million insurance policy like that? I met a guy who did this at the football, and he did the half line kick, and he'd done a deal with a venue, and he got to, they put up the billboard, make sure you go here and buy your ticket, to go in the thing, $1 million thing. I don't know if it was me, $100,000 or something. He kicked the ball from half line, you win $100,000.
Yep. And
he had an actuary and get a quote on the policy. And he would pick up $30,000 in sales of selling your chance to go in the draw, and then one person would be in the half line and kick it. And he paid the venue $5,000, and he paid $5,000 for the policy. He made $20,000 a footy game by selling. Had girls going around the outside and guys saying, "Hey, would you like to go in the draw for a chance to win $100,000 at half time?" And he was making $20,000 a game by buying an insurance policy.
Well, we did the same thing at Parramatta Leagues. I had them as a client for 10 years, and at the games, we would actually come up at half time on the big screen and say, "Pick the crowd." And so everyone on their phone would go, 21,400, and immediately we would bounce back to them and say more or less. And we were picking up 9 cents out of every call. And of course, because we go back to them and say more, they go in again. More, go in again. Less, they go again. So everyone in that crowd was giving us an average of $5. We'd walk away with $50,000 a game. Like, it was just crazy because it's a drug habit. Yeah. You got to be like druggy mentality to go through all this sort of stuff. The great thing with the $1 million, there was a couple of guys at Sanctuary Cove own a resort in Fiji, okay, and it's called the Hideaway Resort. It's 25 years old. This was some years back. And I was over there doing the greater TV commercials, right? And we had Fijians. The funny part about it, we had Fijians looking down the camera going, I got a home loan from the greater and I got a free holiday to Fiji. And then we would keep it in the ad because he thought it was off, like we'd closed up and we had there, and he looks across at me and goes, "What's a home loan?" So we keep that in. It was like really successful ad. When I was there, the owner of this Fiji resort, who comes from Sanctuary Cove, Rob Wade, his name is, he comes up to me and goes, "JD, listen, I've watched all this shit you're doing here and you're sending lots of people to..." Mate, we're running at 32% at the moment occupancy because everyone's staying at Port Denaroo, Hilton, Sofitel, all those areas down at the airport. We're half an hour drive up the Coral Coast. You got any of that wow shit? I went, let me just check. I think I might have some in my pocket here. I said, who's your target audience? He said, well, anyone with a pulse, but travel agents on the East Coast, of course, they're driving most of our traffic. I said, well, give them a chance to win $1 million. He goes, what? So I told him how to do it. So we put out a campaign to every travel agent on the East Coast and said, look, for every night you book someone into this resort, then you're in the draw to win $1 million for your travel agency. Guess what? He went from 32 to 98% occupancy within a week, and it sat there for 3 months throughout the whole time. So don't tell me artificial wow factors can't influence you on where you want to stay at a hotel. And I found out afterwards why he actually was doing that, and he sold the resort. As soon as he got it up to full occupancy, he sold it to Ridges. But the funny part is that if you went into a travel agent and you were there with your wife and said, we're thinking about going to Fiji, we thought maybe we'd go to Port Denaroo, the Hilton, and the travel agent, who was not getting anything for that except the commission, was like, no, it's got rabies there at the moment. You don't want to stay there. We thought we'd stay at the Sofitel. It's got Ebola. You don't want to stay there. You'll lose arms, legs, all sorts of stuff. So they were, well, where should we stay? The Hideaway Resort.
Mate, I tell you what, again, listeners and viewers, don't let the laughs just be passed off as a joke here. This is hardcore business training right now. You know, in a world full of grey and vanilla and boring, it takes a bit of an Aussie larrikin with a creative mind and the balls, quite frankly, to have a crack at this stuff. And you know the old saying, fortune favours the bold. And you know, sometimes, like, I've done some of this. I years ago was starting a company where we were charging premium text messages in the United States, and I wanted to get Donald Trump. And this is long before he was president. And I thought, how can I get through to Donald Trump? And I went to Trump website and then found who his assistant was, and got cupcakes sent up from a cupcake store downstairs from Trump Tower up to his assistant, and had a response from Donald within 24 hours. And funnily enough, he wanted $1 million up front. I got Kris Jenner before the Kardashians were massive. I've got Chris's personal email in my phone here. She responded by doing similar things. So it's just that case of being creative. I've connected with Kevin Hart, other people like that for different projects. Most people just they just rule themselves out before they even begin. Yeah. And you've just got massive balls. and
I'll just check my wife.
She's horrified over there on the couch right now. But yeah, you've got the balls to have a crack at it and let people say no. And it's just something we hear over and over. Let's just quickly play that Mildura ad, because I think this will be good just to watch.
Clean, green, pristine. This is the home of Australia's very own Mildura tea.
I love Mildura tea, and I tell you, sometimes I love my husband. I love Mildura tea. Ooh, tough choice sometimes.
I'm a chef, and it's the best tea I've ever tasted.
I really enjoy my Mildura tea after dropping the kids at school in the morning. It's an amazing feeling. You actually feel relaxed.
If I don't have my cup of Mildura green tea, I can really notice the difference in my energy levels.
High in antioxidants, Mildura is very special tea. And this is a very special offer.
You mean I can win $1 million just by drinking Mildura tea?
It's a lot of money.
That's amazing. Just by having a cup of tea, you can win $1 million.
Look for these specially marked Mildura tea packs for your chance to win $1 million. Mildura tea at all major supermarkets.
Winning $1 million? Yeah, that's a pretty good prize. Yeah.
That's my daughter. Oh, is it? What happened, the girl that was supposed to turn up that day, or two of them, they didn't turn up, so Gail got conned into being the lady in it, and my daughter, I had to ring her up and say, quick, get down here. And at the end of it, that's really just an outtake, and that's not bad. It was so blonde, we just left it in there. Yeah.
I didn't realise till I was looking at your site before the interview that you were the guy in those Greater Union ads as the bank manager.
A couple of them.
Yeah, I remember seeing those ads, and I didn't put two and two together until just before we rolled tape here.
Well, how that happened, Adam, we had Glenn Robbins lined up to be the nasty bank manager, okay? And what's Glenn's country show that he does? He puts the Australian hat on. But anyway, Glenn Robbins. And he's in Kath and Kim as the boyfriend, yeah. And anyway, he bailed at the last moment, or he had a cold or something. And so the Great Ability Society guy knew that I was a bit cheeky. And he said, well, the camera crew's here, you do it. I went, I'm not going to do it, you idiot. He said, do it. And he said, your contract's coming up for renewal next month, do it. Oh, okay, right. So I did it, and I had to play the role of a John Cleese nasty bank manager, and people would come into me in the TV commercial. I go, why can't we get a home loan like the Greater? And I'm saying, oh, the Greater, and I'm sick of hearing about the Greater. And of course they say, well, can you do anything for us? And of course I say, yes, I can. And I press a button and the floor opens underneath them and they just go, boom, next. So
it was actually a great ad.
It's pretty cheeky.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, by the way, when you're on TV, what I learned is that you've got to be careful. Because I remember I got into a plane from Newcastle, where the head office was, to come back up to the Gold Coast. two little kids in front of me were pointing at me because they see you on TV every night, doing these ads. And I'm thinking, well, of course, I'm pretty special because I'm not around town now on TV. And these kids go, you're the bank manager, you're that nasty bank manager on TV, aren't you? That's me. They go, yeah, you're a dickhead.
God bless Australia. Oh, mate, that's unreal. Look, John, I could sit here and talk all day, and honestly, it's a real pleasure having guys like you in the studio. I had dinner with a very close mate of mine last night, and he's connected to a lot of the I mean it respectfully, that the slightly older generation of businessmen in this country, and I count you in that group of people that we need to capture on podcasts like this. So, and I say that firstly to say thank you, because everybody's focus is on the young and the hacks and all this sort of stuff, but there's something to be said for this kind of conversation with people from this era. And I've interviewed some amazing Australians, John Howard, John Bertram, Ida Buttrose, and when it comes to marketing, I put you in that pantheon of Aussie legends. And and for our listeners out there, if you know somebody like John who's a legit, entrepreneur, from that generation, I would love to have them on the show. And if you've got any friends that I'm sure you do in your network.
No, I don't have any friends.
Well, it's not surprising, actually, is it? I have to tell you.
They don't call me a consultant, they call me an insult.
We would love to have more people like this on, because you just can't beat experience and creativity. And you're one in a million, mate, which means there's 4 more of you just in New South Wales.
Thank you. And Ali, can I say this?
As the Whitlands say.
Can I say this? The thing that amazes me is that a lot of and this is easy to say when you become an old fart, but a lot of the younger generation are still not doing the basics. You can walk into any restaurant today in the world, and I'll bet you $1 million they will not ask you for your name or details. We have a restaurant client called the Lobster Cave in Melbourne, very upmarket restaurant. You got Mercedes and BMWs everywhere in the car park. And a few years ago, I said to him, stop giving Sam Newman, whatever it was, and he was paying out $500,000 a year on advertising. Just give your waitresses 50 cents, and every time they get a name and contact detail for a contest to win dinner for 4 of your friends at the end of the month, they get 50 cents. So if we were having lunch, for example, she or he would put a little entry form about the size of an ace of diamonds, and it says name, phone number mainly is what we're after. He's up to 92,000 now, 3 years later. And all that happens is that every afternoon at 3 o'clock, he says to his secretary, can you tell me how many of our 180 seats are full? And she says, 100. He said, we've got to fill 80 seats. Send out one of JD's bullshit text messages. And she'll send out number 4, which says, Chef Pierre would like to invite Gail and you tonight to our restaurant. We've got a special lobster tail meal for 2 for $68. And you better hurry up because seats are, really rare. 10 minutes later, all 80 seats are gone. And he does that every afternoon. He's the only restaurant in the world that's full 364 nights a year because he just collects data and uses it. But I guarantee you that very basic rule of collect data, which, as you know from your Amazon history, is what it's all about, no one does it.
It's just basics of building businesses, right? So good. What do you do today, JD, and how can people connect with you? Like, are you still taking clients? And if you are, who are you looking for? Like, who qualifies and how do they contact you?
I'm so rich and wealthy and happy, as you can tell, that really, I wish. I'll tell you what I'll do, because Auntie Teresa, to you, be mother, but to me, she was my auntie. She taught me to basically live to give. I'd like to give my book to your audience.
Those of you not watching on YouTube, John has just pulled a book out. I don't know how to describe it. How big is that?
Tabloid.
It's a tabloid, yeah. It is not a book. It's a tabloid.
Now, this is all of the ideas that have worked. I didn't put the ones that didn't work in there. So this is about 15, 20 years of case studies of idea after idea after idea. This is, $420 to print this book, by the way. So it's a big, but I'll give you the digital copy. And I don't want this to sound like an infomercial, but Adam, you've invited me to, so yes. But hurry while stocks last. This is free, so I'm not making any money out of it, but if you wanted to get this, you just go to wowmanifesto.com/free, wowmanifesto.com.
wowmanifesto.com/free. John, that's very, very generous. Thank you for doing that. I'm definitely going to grab that. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And that's what it's all about, guys. And again, for those of you that are modern marketers, that's called a lead magnet, right? So John's just got a really compelling lead magnet. He's used a prop to show it and make an impact and make us all laugh. Again, that's mastery. It's not just a joke. It's actually a lesson in marketing. So listen to this back now that you know what jokes are coming out of his mouth, so you can actually get the lessons and not just the humor, because it's quite deceptive in terms of the power of that if you're not listening. And remember what I said to you about when gold is like, I recently gave a talk with just how we reconnected. I was in Sydney at Marketing Mastery or whatever it was called. And I was speaking and JD was speaking, and that's how we reconnected. But what was I going to say there? It's gone clean out of my head. I can't remember. Anyway, I hate it when that happens. There was something else.
Is there something nice about me, maybe?
Mate, it was definitely something nice about you. But yeah, anyway, so so just connect with John if you'd like to. Get that lead magnet into your hands and go from there. Eric?
And I would just like to personally invite you to my horror house on Friday. It's after 9.
That'll be at 9 p.m. by the show. Yeah.
You get a free sticker.
And Eric, when I go there, I promise I love you a long time.
Oh, you won't after you leave.
Adam, what would be a good outro? Here I am as a guest and I'm trying to run the show, but that Seinfeld sledge would be a good outro, because as I said to you guys before, when I went into people's homes and they would be pretty ordinary in terms of saying they swapped their home loan to the Greater because they got a free holiday, I would say to them, look, I'd like to say you were the best couple we've ever had. And of course they think I was serious and go, oh, thank you. No, I'd like to say that I can't. You're awful. Probably the worst we've ever had. And they did the same trick to me for Seinfeld. And I know you got it queued up, and you probably
let's queue it up and watch it, because it is actually a great sledge of Jerry sledging you. And it's always good to see the rabble rouser getting some of his own back. But as this takes us out, John, thanks very much. We appreciate you coming in. Thanks to the family support over here as well. We appreciate it. And if you are serious about connecting. Just the book, is that the book?
Yeah, or either that or just my email address is john@theinstituteofwow.com. So I don't have any info. Oh yeah, well we're .com because we're multinational, we're global, we're massive. We're massive. So it's just john@theinstituteofwow.com. Don't dare put AU in.
With that said, guys, thank you for watching Unemployable. We really appreciate you. Make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. We do read the comments. I'm sure JD's going to read the comments as well. Thanks for being here, mate. We appreciate it. We can't wait to have you back again in the future to share some more tales.
Thank you.
And we're going to take you out with Jerry Seinfeld giving JD some of his own curry back.
JD, I just want to say that, you are the most professional, most competent, just best to work with marketing person I've ever worked with.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
I'd like to say that.
Right.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.